Hey, Steve Saretsky here. As always, there's going to be a couple of links that go with this video in the description below. I just wanted to provide you with a Vancouver real estate market update for the month of June, just running through all the stats and the numbers. So again, everything that I talk about is going to have the graphs and charts on my blog, vancitycondoguide.com. That will be again in the description below. I just wanted to touch on a couple things. As always, this is never like advice in terms of what you should do or what you should do with your money or trying to time or predict the market. It's all about me. I mean, again, I don't try to pretend to be some sort of guru that can predict the market or some sort of expert. Basically what I do is I provide you I'm just ultimately trying to provide you as much value as possible from studying the market every single day. I don't think anybody looks at the numbers more than I do in terms, and then feet on the ground perspective, compiling data, talking with people, whether it's meeting with hedge fund managers from New York, Chicago, reading various reports, real estate investment conferences, it goes down the line. I basically just try to siphon through that and provide you sort of my thoughts on the market, and then you are free to interpret how you wish. Whether you're a buyer or a seller or you want to rent, I don't think it really matters. I think everybody's makes their own choices, and I don't think there is any right or wrong answer in terms of people that feel the need that they want to rent and hold it out, or if they've crunched the numbers and that makes more sense for them, etc. Or again, if you feel like cashing out, or if you want to go, chips all in and buy a couple more properties. I think that's again, I'm never going to tell anyone what to do with their money. I don't think I'm at that point where I can start dictating that advice. So really, what I try to do here is basically just provide you with all the numbers, and then you can go and make an informed decision. I've noticed that for myself, just looking at investment properties in other parts of Canada where it's so hard to get information. So I try to do that here in Vancouver. I think there's been a pressing need for it, obviously. Obviously respect all your comments, feedback, advice. It all very much helps. So without rambling on too much further, just going to dive into the June numbers. Basically, starting with the detached market, to me it looks like it's sort of hit a leveling off period where we're starting to see the sales to active ratio start to turn down. Sales are turning down, and then inventory is starting to creep back up again. So what we saw basically was a massive cool off in the winter months, followed by a spring uptick. Again, part of this is seasonal, but I would say there's definitely was some resurgence there. Some interesting numbers on the west side of Vancouver, where we saw a strong bounce back there. Yeah, I mean, there was definitely a resurgence in the spring of 2017. The numbers were not even close to what we saw in 2016. So obviously, we definitely still saw, I guess, what would be considered a cool off. But basically, it looks like the detached market sort of went through its resurgence in the spring, and all the indicators are now starting to point down, which means that I think the detached market could be in for a bit of a cool off or a slowdown anyways in the late summer, early fall months, as it typically does with the sales to actives ratio. So I mean, the detached market inventory was up year over year 9%. Sales are down 14%. So you can sort of see that those, again, are going in different directions. And then, of course, the sales to active ratio falling now at 24%, which is still technically indicative of a seller's market. Basically, how I would summarize the detached market right now is if you're priced well in a good location, you're going to sell, and you're likely going to sell in multiple offers. If you're not, then there's a good chance that you're going to be sitting on there, potentially looking at a price reduction, whatever. It just tends to sit a lot longer. But I would say for the most part, it's almost in a balance / kind of favors the sellers still. That's kind of where we're at. It looks like the average sales price, I believe, is down year over year about 2.5%. So you can sort of try to analyze in terms of how much the market or how much detached prices are down, but that's sort of where the numbers are at. Prices are definitely below their peaks of last year, but it seems like it's sort of balanced out. It seems like the detached market has stabilized. Again, where it goes is anyone's guess. I'm not going to try to predict that. But that's where it's at. Looks like the data is going to turn down in the late summer months here. Yeah, so that's where we're at for the detached. And then moving into the condo market, this is where really all the activity is. Basically, as people got priced out of the detached market, then of course you have the BC government's subprime home ownership free money that also has helped. I would argue has helped maybe people that maybe were over leveraged or wouldn't have been able to get in the market are now entering the market. I'm not saying this is the main driver for this massive uptick in condos. The big thing really is that inventory is down 32% year over year. So everybody last year was talking about how low inventory was, and this is a huge issue for condo prices that were going up. Well, now you have inventory even 32% lower than last year. It's never been this low. As far as the data goes back, I'm looking at the last 10 years. For June, it has not been this low, and that's been the big driver. The sales to active ratio is at 93%, which is just astronomical. I think it's, I believe it's higher than last year's peak, or just around the same. So, you know, there's multiple offers in every single condo, 3 or 4 offers in every condo. Some of the, again, it's just crazy. And again, all these markets, whether you're looking at Vancouver or you're looking into the Fraser Valley, they're all acting very similar. This is almost like a province-wide phenomenon, right? I mean, I don't really go to Langley. I've have investor clients here from Vancouver that have been looking out that way. But again, I'm just more of like a studier of the market, and that's always what I've tried to provide you. Like, here's the stats, here's what I'm seeing. The sales to active ratio for Langley condos, I'm sure a lot of you might not care, but just to put this into context for you, is the sales to active ratio in Langley is 132%. So that basically means that for every Langley condo sale there is, or sorry, for every new listing in Langley, so for every new listing of a Langley condo that comes onto the market, on average there's 1.32 sales. So basically the sales are outpacing on a daily basis. The sales are outpacing new listings. So it's basically like the inventory is just plummeting, and this is not only happening in Langley. I think it's most evident in the Fraser Valley areas like Langley, Surrey, Whalley area, where condos are still relatively affordable. But it is happening in Vancouver, and I believe the Vancouver condo inventory is down 20% year over year. The sales to active ratio is extremely high. But yeah, there's basically a massive surge. I think there's still a lot of fear of missing out. People are rushing into the market that maybe should not be entering the market. And that's just the truth. That's where we're at. And again, people are bidding up prices of these condos. There seems to be really no price discovery. I've talked in my last video about some of the multiple offers that I've been involved in over the last couple of weeks, where again, you sort of look at a comparable sale and you say, okay, this is what it should go for. You know, maybe we tack on an extra $10,000 because we really want the unit, and then it ends up it blows every sort of recent comparable out of the water, really. And yeah, it's just like you can't look at that and say, oh, that price makes sense, because you just look at it and just sets that new benchmark, and then of course the next seller that goes to sell in that building is then expecting that new crazy price that someone just got. So it's sort of this positive feedback loop where prices just continue to escalate higher. Again, with the sales to active ratio being so high, I do expect condo prices to continue to increase. You do wonder where that ceiling is, but right now all the data suggests that there's going to be continued price acceleration in the condo market across the lower mainland. And then it sort of leaves us with the townhouse market. It's sort of a mix, again, in between the condo and detached market. Sales to active ratio is 73%. Obviously, that's still extremely high. A lot of multiple offers on the townhouse market. There's not that much product available. I would say, for the most part, most people almost are always looking at it's either a condo or a detached house. There's very few and far between. So I tend not to talk about the townhouse market too much. But inventory is down 9% year over year. I think sales are down 6%. So, you know, inventory is kind of falling with sales. So that's sort of where we're at. I think the big things to focus on are really the detached market and the condo market, and that'll basically tell you what the townhouse market's going to do. So I would say that you have really the two markets, the detached and the condo, to me appear like they're going in sort of opposite directions. The detached market had a nice little rebound in the spring months. June data suggests that we're going to start to continue we're going to start our sort of downswing here, a cool off, a bit of a slowdown. Not to say that there won't be multiple offers on detached homes. I'm sure there will be. But then the condo market, it just seems like it's still, the road for condos is still paved. The runway is paved. It's cleared for takeoff. I just think there's going to be more price acceleration, which for me is hard to fathom because the acceleration, again, in some of these areas is just astronomical. I think Langley condos are up 30-35% year over year. Wally's about 30%. Vancouver condos are now at, I believe, about 15% year over year. They're up. I think on the east side, where we've seen a huge shift, where people that have been priced out of the Vancouver condo market on the west side have now moved into the east side, and the average sale price per square foot is now something around $850 a foot on the east side. The average sales price on the east side of Vancouver is up 20%. So it's like everybody's now pushing into the condo market on the east side, which was I think over the last couple of years, the average price per foot in the east side was something around $550, and now it's at about $850. So again, there's just been a massive increase as people look for affordability. So that's sort of where the market is. Again, that's sort of how I see things moving the next couple months. Obviously, there's some things to digest. We of course have a new BC provincial government that I've talked about in a previous video. And then, of course, the Bank of Canada is talking about potential interest rate hikes. I think the markets are now pricing in about a 50 to 60% rate hike odds of the Bank of Canada hiking by 0.25% in this month, in July. So that'll be interesting. Obviously, I think those sort of two might have some impact in potentially cooling the market. There's a lot of talk about the NDP and Greens coming in and crashing this market. And believe me, I've done a lot of research. If you've watched some of my videos, I've spoken with David Eby at length. I think that he has a lot of optimism on the Vancouver market and helping with affordability. I think if anyone's going to do it, he's going to be the guy to do it. But with that being said, I think at the end of the day, he's still looking out for the best interest of people. There's still a lot of these things that are completely out of his control. So in terms of the NDP sort of coming in and potentially crashing the market, I don't know because I think that a lot of the policies that they're talking about, I think they're going to step back from. I think they might have a bit of pushback from the federal government, because again, these markets are all very much interconnected, and when the Canadian economy is so dependent on real estate as an economic driver, you can't have a government. Again, BC real estate alone on the Canadian economy is pretty substantial, so you can't have a government coming in and basically crashing a real estate market here and not expect to have any impacts on the nationwide, Canadian-wide economy. So I think they're going to have some pushback on that. I don't know how many of these policies are actually going to be implemented, if any. I think it could be a bit of a slow dabble, kind of put your toes in the water and test things out. So I think a lot of people that are hoping on that, might want to realign sort of expectations. But again, it could very well happen. I don't know. I'm just speculating here, I guess, just like everybody else. But, I'm not sure if I'd make future arrangements on that. I think you can certainly prepare and look at it as it's definitely a headwind coming in. I think that the BC Liberals put a massive emphasis on real estate. Of course, they work hand in hand with a lot of developers. There's been a lot of incentive courting offshore investment. I think there's been turning a blind eye to that sort of thing. So we could see some of that change, but that remains to be seen until it happens. I don't necessarily want to speculate on it too much. But those are the Vancouver real estate numbers. And just for all of you that are watching this as I wrap this up, if you have any questions about specific areas, obviously I can't talk about every single area. I might not be able to give you a feet on the ground perspective from every single area. But I can certainly send you a lot of the charts and data. So if you just want to comment in the description below, in the comment section, if you want to know about, Coquitlam Detached or, Abbotsford Condos or whatever it is, or Richmond Townhouses, just put it in the comments. I'll link you to some charts or data, whatever you're asking for. That's no big issue. Appreciate, again, my goal is to always provide people with some value here. So if you're looking for other information that you can't find on my site or whatever, put it in the comments below and I'll get back to you, right as soon as I can. And then again, of course, if you haven't, hit subscribe, and appreciate all your support, and we'll chat soon. Thanks.